Hello, and welcome back to Honors Bio. So, we started talking about natural selection. We talked through the steps: overproduction, variation, adaptation, selection, and speciation. In the last video, we kind of deeply into overproduction a little bit, and then really deeply into variation, talking about the different variations, mimicry, camouflage. There's all sorts of behavioral ones too. Um, so this video is just going to kind of wrap up natural selection. We'll talk through the rest of the steps that occur there. So the third one is these adaptations that get inherited, and the whole idea behind adaptations is that individuals, organisms within a species, compete for limited resources. There's limited food. There's limited water. There's limited space available. There's limited number of mates around. So individuals have to compete for all of these different resources. Um, and that sets up this survival of the fittest idea that Darwin coined. And that's how natural selection occurs through the survival of the fittest. Now, when we mean the fittest, we don't necessarily mean, whoever's the smartest, whoever's the strongest, whoever's the fastest. That's not what that necessarily means. When we talk about fitness, fitness is just the ability to survive long enough to reproduce. That's the whole idea behind it, is we have to survive long enough to reproduce and pass on our genes. And we have certain adaptations available that make that possible, whether adaptations that help us get more food and water so we can just live longer, adaptations that allow us to have the appropriate amount of space and shelter if we need shelter, adaptations that allow us to procure mates so we can reproduce and get more offspring. Whatever those adaptations is, you can really look at it in one of these four ways, and even just surviving for like prey species. So the thing is, not all individuals survive to adulthood. So only the individuals that survive to adulthood are going to be able to pass on their adaptations that made it possible for them to get to adulthood. And then once we go through the competition aspect of it, we have the selection, where we select for. And all it is just saying that now the individuals with the best traits or the adaptations for that environment. Remember, it all hinges on the environment. We're not saying that, oh yeah, the individuals with the best traits and adaptations overall will survive. It's suited for that environment. So the organisms with the best traits or the best adaptations for their environment will survive and then have the opportunity to pass on and reproduce so they can pass on their traits to the offspring. Remember, natural selection is just gearing towards each individual environment. What works best in the tundra for adaptations may not work best for a jungle, or what may work best for a frog may not work best for a toad. So it's all about each individual species in the environment that they're in. And then the thing too is natural selection acts on the phenotype, not the genotype here. So like fur color, right? Natural selection acts on the fur color. So for example, when a predator finds its prey, it's due to the prey's physical characteristics like color or speed, not the alleles. So it's we're acting on the phenotype, so either the darker light colored phenotype or like fur color. We're acting on that and not on the genotype here. Just it's a little clarification, but it's still an important clarification to make. So in a nutshell, right? Natural selection. So here we have first, right? We'll work through this. These crows, birds love beetles, and they see the green beetles because the green beetles stick out the best on the surface. So right off the bat, we have overproduction because we have more beetles and what can they survive here, and we have variation. We have the green and the brown beetles. So right off the bat, there we go. And then if we keep going, we see we're getting more brown beetles and less green beetles. So there's the adaptation part of it, right? The brown beetles have the more suited adaptation for their environment that allows them to blend in than what the green beetles do. Well, if this happens, 100 years, 1,000 years, tens of thousands of years, eventually we're going to have all brown beetles. So there you go. So there's your brown beetles that flourished. So, and really, that's natural selection, right? Variation in we start with variation in a population. We add in some selective pressure, right? If there's no pressure for organisms to change or to adapt, then they're not going to. Well, here are selective pressures, the birds, the predators, right? And then that selective pressure is going to weed out what adaptation is favored and versus which adaptation is not favored. So there you go. So if you have any questions, let me know. That basically sums up natural selection, what it is. So make sure you know kind of each step, what happens in each step, how do we define each step, and just the general process overall. The most important thing with natural selection, again, just to re-emphasize, is natural selection works with the environment, right? Organisms best suited for their environment will kind of win the day. So, questions, let me know. Other than that, have a good one, and I'll see you next time.